Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thanks so much for joining us today. My name is Brian Berenshausen, and I am Senior Open Source Program Manager at GitLab. And on behalf of the entire GitLab team, let me welcome you to today's webcast. It's my pleasure to sit down with members of the Colmena project. Joining us today are Colmena community members Nils Brock and Nilsen Roca, who will help us understand a few things by the end of today. They're going to help us understand how the globally distributed Colmena community uses GitLab to collaborate. We're going to talk about how developers can build robust and resilient systems with GitLab. And we're going to talk about how open source projects specifically benefit from using a complete and comprehensive DevSecOps platform. But before we get started, let me just cover a few housekeeping items. First, feel free to ask questions throughout the presentation. To do that, simply use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. We'll do our absolute best to address some of your questions during the webcast and afterward in a dedicated time for Q&A. And if we run out of time to answer your question today, we'll continue the conversation in the GitLab for Open Source section of the GitLab forum, where you will find a thread about this webcast. Next, please know that if you're experiencing any technical difficulties today, you can use the chat function to get in touch with the moderator for help. And finally, note that we are recording today's conversation, so please be aware of that. We'll deliver the recording to all registrants in the next few days. Okay, and with all that out of the way, let us get started here. First, let's meet our guests. We're delighted to have with us Nils Brock and Nilsen Roca. I'll give them each a moment to introduce themselves and explain their roles in the Colmena project. And I'll start with Nils. Nils, welcome, and thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Brian, again for the invitation. Yeah, pleasure to chat with you. My name is Nils Brock. My background is that I'm a broadcasting journalist, but I'm also one of the coordinators of the Colmena project. I'm based in Germany, have spent many years in Latin America, and yeah, looking forward to this talk.
Thanks so much, Nils. And we'll turn it over to Nilsen. Nilsen, welcome.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nilsen Walker. My job is, I'm from Brazil. I don't speak English, sorry. My job is infrastructure in DevOps in project Colmena. Okay.
Thanks, Nilsen. And Nils, thank you for helping us translate on behalf of Nilsen and GitLab today. Appreciate that. Great. Well, thanks, gentlemen, for being here. I think we're going to just jump right in and start with the Q&A so we can learn a little bit more about Colmena, if that's okay with you.
Sounds good, Brian. All
right, great. Let's start at the beginning, right? Tell us a little bit about what the Colmena project is and tell us about the community's mission and vision.
Sure. Thank you. So, Colmena is the mobile production studio for crisis-proof media, and I will start first with a bit of context. So the beginnings of Colmena that date back 2021, and as you remember, there was this pandemic called COVID. Some might still remember, and
I do have a recollection of it. Yeah, yeah,
yeah. So might others, and we received lots of feedback also from community media. So Colmena project is developed together with DW Academy, a German media development organization. And they have lots of partners in the global south, and they were just complaining of how difficult it was to really keep up and to produce news and to keep the communities informed on the ground. And so we started to ask questions. So what were the roadblocks? What was so difficult? And then it became aware that not being able to go to the studio, to do community radio, to do many things, it was necessary to provide other kinds of digital tools and something that would integrate tools and would do so in a safe environment. And so we came up with this idea. So why not co-create together an open source software application that bundles those essential tools for the local community media, so they can stay online, they can stay responsive and with the communities. And so interestingly, working together with many radios at the beginning in Latin America and in Africa, later also in Northern Africa and the MENA region, we were asking, okay, what are the things you need? So, and they said, okay, we need audio recorder and possibility to record remote interviewing, and we also wanted to edit those things, and we wanted to share files. Okay, and what kind of device would you use for this? Well, I don't have a computer at home, so I usually use the phone, and I don't have a good internet connectivity. So we came up with an MVP that was really inspired a lot by those dialogues that we had in the early days. So it was necessary to reinvent something mobile first, also offline first, and build on open source. And this is how things get started in the first place.
It's fascinating. So it's not a very old project. You have not been, you've done a remarkable amount of work in what I now understand is a pretty short period of time. And it's really fascinating the way that you have built something that is meant to be sort of low resource, right? You can't presume internet connectivity. You can't presume high bandwidth. These things you can't presume, a professional equipment, availability of professional equipment. So a lot of challenges that you've been able to tackle in a short amount of time.
Yeah, exactly. And those conditions, persons might not be aware of this, because normally we just take it for granted that there is connectivity, and so there are very interesting apps also to produce podcasts, for instance. But you always need the connections to the server, to the cloud, and so we were really looking for different ways. So technically, Colmena is also PWA, so it's a progressive web application, and you can run it on almost any device that has a browser and the sound card, and that makes it also very compatible with older generations of mobile phones. And this was also learning so many interesting projects, but they need a kind of more up-to-date technology that is not inclusive for others.
Yeah. That's a great segue to what I want to talk about next. I think folks are just going to be really interested in understanding, what Colmena offers. Like, what does the project offer, and how does it do what it does? I mean, you just started explaining, how it functions. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Sure. So currently we are at the level of the beta production version. So we spent 2 years in wireframing and testing how things should go together, and especially also what are the priorities. And because we had a limited set of resources, also limited set of time. So what could be done in this time? And so we said, okay, post discussion with guests and experts. This is something all of the media need to do. They also need to record and edit, coordinate and share work. As I said before, when the studio is closed, is very important also to do this in a safe place. The storage, so data loss is also a big issue for many of those smaller media outlets. To co-create and exchange content easily, so to have persons in a kind of an editorial style working on the same piece and then bringing it forward would make a difference. And then to publish and to distribute those creations, of course, so to easily play it out to social media, to the proper websites. Those are the things that we tried to unpack, and then to integrate it in just one app, because this was also a learning that persons would use many different tools at a time, up to 7 different apps to get a story published and an audio feature published, and it had to be easier. So that was the starting point. And
well,
so,
here at GitLab, we certainly understand the benefits of a full platform solution, right? Like we understand why someone would want a single platform to do to fulfill all those functions. So we hear you on that.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, for us, I mean, Nielsen will also talk a bit about this, but for us, so GitLab was also right there from the beginning. So when we met with the developers team first, also something to share. So the developers, most of them come from Brazil or also from the global south, because those are persons also that are more in touch with the conditions of rural communities and the ones we want to produce for. And so they suggested also to say, okay, if we want to be really open source and we want to be coherent with the tools we used, and let's use GitLab as a platform. I didn't know GitLab at this time, and so yeah, but more about this later.
Sure, of course, of course.
But jumping back, and I will just show some of the function and some of the screenshots, so how it looked like. So we created a digital newsroom. It looks a lot like a chat, as you can see here. We call them honeycombs. Colmena, by the way, the name in Spanish means beehive, and it was crowdsourced by the participant media. So they were looking for a metaphor that comes close to this kind of shared collaboration. And so, yeah, Colmena sticked and became the official name of the project too.
Yeah.
And in those and in those spaces that, as you can see here, you can have group chats. You can have different working groups with your team colleagues. Also collaborate with other members from other media. And it's not only about exchanging messages, but it's also directly about exchanging content. From one of those chats, you can start recording and editing functions. And so the results are directly shared. You can also do this in a private way, but we wanted to just make something that with as little as possible steps to get to the final publication. So this is the space where people naturally meet and engage in Colmena. Then the mobile recording was something that we worked a lot on. Waveform is the free, the open source audio recorder that we found, but it was not really complete, and the team worked a lot on it. We are still improving it also to have more functionality, but the result is already working, and yeah, it works quite well from all the devices that we are using. We also implemented something like that we call Virtual Studio. It's built on Jitsi, and so this permits that persons that do not use Colmena, you can also send an invite link and then have them in your virtual studio and interview them with as many persons as you wish, and then you can record and edit this later, or you can also stream it, so live stream it, and so make it part of a live workflow or live programming that you might have in your media. Another core function is the mobile editing. This is also done with the Waveform program. So Colmena is one of the few apps that you have where you can do multi-track mobile editing on a phone. This is not trivial, but it's possible, and so you can mix the interviews that you have with some background music, or to use sound effects, and it's working quite well. We have a collaborative text tool, of course, so that persons can take notes or share scripts for the programs that they are working on. In the near future, it will also be possible to insert pictures here already, and this can then also be the base for the publications. And as said before, there's a possibility to collaborate with other media outlets too, and we hope that this way Colmena also becomes a tool for networking between local radios to exchange content, to really engage in productions, and those productions could then be either uploaded on a native platform that we are still working on, or they can be exported to social media and to the proper website, as I said before. And yeah, that's a quick walkthrough of what Colmena is going to be. The first full version will be launched in October, but those are screenshots already from the existing one.
Fascinating. Yeah, congratulations. It's an amazing bit of work, and you really have built a true end-to-end sort of citizen journalism, participatory journalism platform for low latency environments. And it's fascinating. You know, as somebody who likes community media, I'm just thrilled to see this. Let's talk a little bit. Thanks for that explanation, by the way. I think that really helps clarify, you know, for our folks, for folks watching at home, what Colmena is really capable of. Let's talk a little bit about GitLab and, you know, how you use GitLab to help the Colmena community collaborate and build together. Tell us a little bit about, you know, how you use GitLab as a platform.
I could do so, but I would prefer that my colleague Nielsen Rasha, who has, he said at the beginning he doesn't speak English, but that's not true. He does, and so I think he should have the first words, and then I can also fill in the gaps. But he's the one leading all the weightlifting, as you would say, with the DevOps, and so yeah.
Then let's hear from Nielsen.
Hello. Well. Now in instance GitLab local, repository manage 14 project. Project front-end and back-end development, including documentation of front work. Okay? Mm-hmm. Technical documentations of the working native Wix system. In for project, the coding and the integration of the software components. Ok? Grande parte de repositórios especial de source code relativo weekend content all open to the public. Is okay? Mm-hmm. To give you, for example, is que now the project have current 55 registered user providers, input, feedback, and GitLab instance. Okay? Mm-hmm. Systematization of the off-work and collaboration native Wix system, automatic of image with CCD using GitLab running for creation the image. Mm-hmm. Ticket for support users. You use GitLab Open Ticket, resolving development and user support issues. Okay?
Yeah. Yep. That's fantastic. So just to recap, repository management, you know, wikis, you know, the CI/CD, the service desk for support. You're using quite a few features. That's awesome to hear. Nils, anything to add?
Yeah, maybe what we can point out here is also that, as Nielsen said, so we do like the technical documentation, of course, in the native wiki system, but there's also, we used started to use the wiki also for further collaborators, and so the whole documentation also of the how do we manage our processes, the research that we have. So we started to use Wiki for this, and it became a very useful tool for this also, and in different languages, since we wanted to make it available. Colmena is like a multi-language tool, so you have like documentation in French, English, and Spanish, always, sometimes some parts also in Portuguese. And we are just maybe like tweaking GitLab for this. Maybe it was not foreseen for this, but it comes very handy. And also the ticketing for the user support when we started to do the troubleshooting and the debugging. So the team also asked, okay, we cannot get all this information always from different channels. So let's try to systematize it, and so that how we came up that the ticketing is also used by the early users to directly inform the developers team about issues. And so our idea of having like a participatory creation of this technology is happening also because of GitLab in this way.
Really fantastic. We have a question here that I'd like to put to you because I think it's relevant. Is this project public to everyone? And can I download Colmena as an individual, or is it limited to only radio stations and media outlets?
It's not an easy question. So we hope that the version, well, it's an open source project. So once the first version is finished, and you can already look it up at GitLab, of course, and you could try to install it on your own behalf using the source code. But the instances that we are currently offering, they're for the early testing community. And community media can apply, those who identify with a non-profit service for the community. If they already say, okay, this is the tool I always wanted to try, then we try to already give access. And then after the launch in October, we will manage different instances together with our partners in Africa, with Tuna Panda and with Oasis Matare, on Latin America with Redis. And so, yes, we hope that it will be a very public tool in the near future, of course.
Great, thanks for that. Just a reminder too, folks, that if you're watching this webcast live, you can certainly submit your questions using the Q&A function in the interface. Great, so now that we've talked a little bit about what Colmena is and how you're using GitLab to build it and to foster a community of folks building it, let's talk about some of your experiences doing all this work, right? What are some of the challenges that you've experienced recently, in building a system like this? And how is the community and your group of developers use GitLab to address those challenges and ultimately to overcome them?
Nielsen, would you like to start?
Yes. One of the challenges, Git documentation, the project is neat. The solution is working on new routines and systematization of relevant information, because as our project, but documentation is not as held the production. Okay.
Yeah, common problem for every open source project I've ever talked to. So, yes.
Challenge 2, critical load of the team to self-manage development project infra. The solution is migration instance to GitLab Cloud. The 7 with the solution solid functionality, space, and development. Okay. Because the local instance of a very space is machine.
Right.
The solution is really migration GitLab Cloud service. Okay.
I see. Okay.
Challenge 3: the get involved all of new members, new team members. The solution is migration on cloud, give all more visibility, foster integration and all project encoders. Okay, because instance local is closed visibility to the project. Okay.
Right. So it sounds like this migration from your own hosted instance of GitLab to the GitLab Cloud is really going to help solve a number of challenges for you, including, better infrastructure and onboarding new open source developers, volunteers, right? Opening it up to the community.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the lessons learned this year also when we started, there was a very ambitious team of developers, and also the project owner at this time, and was like, no, let's do everything from scratch. We can do it. And then we will host everything ourselves. And of course, it becomes overwhelming at some times. So this is something that we all also would like to share. And so at the beginning, we did not even take advantage of the possibility to have some of the things we do on the GitLab cloud server. And so, yeah, I think this will also free up some space and, cause a little less headaches for Nilsson and other persons on the team in the future. And of course, visibility is also a plus being on a bigger platform. So to really have persons engaged, and we're now at the point where we can already accept ideas from others to really engage in the project. And so those are some of the learnings to share.
Yeah. So we have another question that I'll put to both of you now, because it seems relevant, and I want to know the answer. Can you share a favorite story or experience you've had of something that someone built with or shared with Colmena, right? A project that one of your early users created, or was something they were able to achieve by using your platform?
Well, development volunteers. Okay. Is it? Sorry.
To quickly translate, a pergunta era, Nilson, se temos alguma história de compartilhar como dos inícios, onde era como um pouco visível como já o impacto que teve como Colmena, se para os usuários, ou talvez alguma história que você quer compartilhar, assim como que foi placenteira para você participando no projeto, colaborando.
Vou ter que falar em português, perdão. Você traduz, por favor?
He will answer in Portuguese quickly, and then I will summarize the translation.
Great.
Ok. No início do projeto, a gente começou a compartilhar alguns códigos com os amigos para poder fazer a estrutura, para estruturar o projeto. Isso deu muito certo. Algumas pessoas contribuíram bastante logo no início do projeto, ok?
So for him, a positive experience was having the platform, talking about again a bit about GitLab, that it was very easy to exchange the code and to get persons involved to do like code reviews and to really collaborate. And this was for him a very nice experience working on this project that was not always like this in other collaborations.
Okay, great.
Yeah. And well, what I can share a bit is also maybe from the side of the more of the media outlets. So I think something that surprised us, for instance, was in Burkina Faso, where we collaborate with a very rural radio station and testing all the different options. And so they decided now, even before the full first version, to do their weekly conferences with the community correspondents from other villages with Colmena. And so they figured out like a very specific use case for this, and in the Sahel zone, where that is currently very problematic also and not always secure to go outside. So we saw that, okay, even after COVID, which was an initial starting point, this tool is very relevant to maintain persons in contact. And those are the stories that drive us forward. I could share others, and we're still like exploring also this emergent kind of ecosystem.
So a rural radio station decided that all its correspondents was gonna crowdsource stories using Colmena, or were these like employees of the radio station that were using it?
They're like persons that collaborate from the villages with news and with gotcha. Stories. And before that, they were using like other possibilities like WhatsApp or something. But it was not possible to plan together, and now they will use the virtual studio to have like the weekly encounters, and then also directly share the material that they recorded that will then finally be edited at the studio. But so for the persons working in the studio, it's also easier because it all comes in the same folder, and then they just pick it up from there. And those are like the kind of workflows that we would like really to accompany.
Possible
also.
Because it's all in the same application. So from start to finish, you can do your daily stand-up and produce your stories and submit your stories all on the same platform. Yeah, fascinating. As I said, at GitLab, we totally understand the benefits of having a single platform for the entire life cycle of your project. Great. Okay. Thanks for your questions. Just a reminder to folks watching the event live, we are live right now, and you can submit your questions. Just use the Q&A feature on your desktop. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about the community. Now, open source, the benefit of having an open source project is that anyone can contribute. We believe that at GitLab, and we know you believe that at Colmena. So tell us a little bit more about how others can get involved in Colmena, how folks can join your community, how they can help, and what kinds of things they can do, right? What do you need help with in order to grow this platform? Tell us a little bit more about how people can get involved and what they can do.
Sure, thanks, Brian. So thinking about the collaboration or the involvement, I think there are several opportunities. So I don't know whatever kind of profile the listeners have. You choose, you pick what applies more to you. First of all, I think the team of developers would really like to engage with other developers and volunteers. We already had some in the past, persons that accompanied the project. But I think with the features that we are currently finishing, there will always be a possibility to add a little extra something to what we're doing, or to merge other open source tools together with Colmena and to test this. And so, yeah, we are looking forward also to hear ideas and suggestions. We will share our contacts later. But yeah, don't hesitate also if you have questions about the project in general, about how this was built or how we are moving forward. We would really like to share. A second option, like the collaboration with the open source community, also to understand, okay, how can Colmena become part of other ecosystems? And for instance, we are already looking of solutions for local servers, local hardware, like for instance the Nimble from Vacoma, but maybe also Data Cup from Mind and Go. Projects that try to really make it easier for communities to store and manage their own data. And so Colmena could be part of those kind of local servers natively. And then every community would already have a tool at their hand to produce podcasts, to do, to have the first community media experience. But there are many, many other ways that interactions are possible. And yeah, looking forward also to hear some ideas about this. And finally, this was the question already that came up earlier. So independent content creators and media organizations, community radio stations, local ones who think, okay, Colmena could be an interesting tool for us. As said, we're still in the beta production phase, but it's already a good moment maybe to catch up and to have a test user account to see if this is handy, if this is something that could add value to the work that you're doing, and very happy also to accompany this.
Fantastic. Okay. So, and what kinds of skills are you looking for from volunteers? What if people have a certain talent? People are looking at your project and say, I'd love to help. I'm good at X, Y, or Z. What would you love to see, them bring to your project? I guess the answer is everything.
Yeah, everything. Of course, everything is always interesting, but let's ask also Nilson, who's also leading a big part of this. Nilson, o que você acha dos desenvolvedores e voluntários? Quais são as facilidades ou saberes que seriam interessantes para Colmena para complementar a equipe que temos agora?
Acredito que uma boa parte do pessoal trabalhar com front-end, trabalhar um pouco também com a ideia do back-end, que talvez ajuda bastante. Então, o pessoal trabalha com Nest.js, trabalha com JavaScript e trabalha também com já para o back-end, com Django, ajudaria bastante no projeto, contribuiria bastante no projeto.
So yes, a little bit of everything for the backend and for the front end team, persons who know how to work with JavaScript and Django. I would also add speech to text conversion could be a very interesting tool for the near future. We also want to become more inclusive with non-literate or low-literate persons, so to make it really an inclusive tool also in this way. So if there are any cool open source projects that would consider to collaborate on this, then also please reach out.
Great. Yeah, that sounds like it would be a really useful functionality. Okay. Fantastic. Well, I appreciate your time today, and I think I don't have any other questions myself, but I thought I would perhaps turn it over to some of the questions we received from our audience members, if that's okay with the time remaining. Question here. I know that Colmena is in beta until October. However, is the beta available in an app store somewhere? How can I get Colmena and how can I start using it?
Good question. So Colmena is not available in an app store and won't be because of its characteristic to be a progressive web application. So we wanted to not depend on the app stores. So you could open or you can contact us if you want to open a testing account, and then you would get access to the server. And once you had like a first contact, then you can also have a local install on your device to then work. So then you have the possibilities to also work offline with the functionalities of Colmena and won't have to connect always. Yeah, but that's a good clarifying question. So many times we have those talk purpose. People then check the app stores to see where is Colmena, and there are other things with similar names. But it's just this idea to for the moment to go ahead with the progressive web application design.
Great, thanks for that. Thanks for that answer. The next question we have is how secure is Colmena? What security precautions have you taken? Or I'll add, just to clarify, like what kinds of security practices do you practice when you're developing Colmena?
I will share the question with Nilson so we can do some ping pong.
Sure, please do.
Nilson, tem uma pergunta acerca da seguridade da Colmena. Então, qual é a visão para fazer isso uma ferramenta segura e que medidas já estamos tomando?
Bom, já temos o botão de emergência, né? Que a ideia é que quando a pessoa quiser excluir seus dados, suas informações, basta clicar naquele botão de emergência. E sobre para o desenvolvimento com segurança, a ideia é ter um backup, com criptografado com todas as informações do Colmena guardadas no servidor, ok? E todas as informações que são trocadas entre servidores e local são criptografadas.
So mentioning two basic things, so all the backup information and also the databases of the users, they are crypto. How you call it in English? Sorry, no.
Encrypted.
Encrypted, exactly. They're encrypted to guarantee security on this end. And then the building blocks, since it's open source, they make it also easier to spot any exploits. And something that we integrated that came up from early users in Ukraine that also became aware of Colmena. And so they said, okay, what happens if someone arrests me with, or I don't know, with this tool, and it could be like an indicated I'm working for press, and so it's not get exposed. So there is now an emergency button, and if you use it, then the local instance and the data from Colmena will be erased from your smart device, so that at least at the first glance, we know that there are many other tools then, but at the first glance you won't be identifiable as a user. And to what Nilsson said, I think in the future also, even before publishing the first version, we will have another security assessment, and then to build in a regular, I think every year, an update to have like an external assessment, and to see if there are any loopholes, and because privacy and security are very dear to us.
Well, thanks for that explanation, and that's fascinating. I love the sort of panic button erase, feature. I can see why that would be important. We have another question, I think that serves as a good follow-up, and that is it's a more technical question about the storage, how Colmena handles storage. It says, how does the Colmena archive work, and what type of storage does it use? You talked a little bit about, that there was local storage that you could wipe. How does storage work with Colmena?
Nilson, de novo uma pergunta mais técnica. Como se organiza a armazenagem de dados em Colmena, tanto ao lado do servidor e tanto nos dispositivos individuais?
Sim. Cada usuário tem sua pasta local no servidor e no seu device, e seu storage local no seu celular ou computador, ok? Então, quando a pessoa está sem conexão, tudo que ela fez no seu dispositivo é guardado no dispositivo. Quando a conexão volta, sobe para a nuvem, sobe para sua pasta pessoal no servidor. Okay.
So in general, the setup is that on the server side, every user has his or her private folder. And then also on the local device, there will be a folder created. So if the person is offline, then first data will be stored there. And then if there is connectivity, it will be synced with the server. And then there are different options. I can add this. Then you can also decide, okay, this should also only remain on the server, or this remains local. So you have also control to decide a bit where your data is. And then in terms of the data volume, I mean, it depends on your local device, how much storage capacity you have there. On the server side, we are offering currently 25 gigas for the individual users. Since the Colmena is more inclined towards audio production, that's already a fair amount. And you can, of course, also store other archives there.
Great. Thanks for the answer. And I have one more that we received, and that is, in what languages is Colmena available? Obviously, you're serving a number of different communities in a number of different areas. In what languages is the app available?
Well, they're the usual suspects. So English and also Spanish, since we started to collaborate in Latin America, we started with them. Then we added also French because there was interest in the Sahel zone. And then from there was a questioning also that was raised by the participants to say, okay, we should more engage also with local languages or with languages that are commonly used. And so Arabic was another one, a tricky one, one also because it also implied to change lots of the usability just from reading to from the right to the left was a game changer. Then we are very glad that we integrated Kiswahili, Swahili. That was a suggestion from Kenya, and it proved this very interesting because now there are also testers in Tanzania, for instance, who became aware of this, and people appreciate it. And so the idea is also we are using also open source tool for the language databases. So the menus can very easily be translated. So if there are volunteers, that would even be another way to engage. You say, I want to have this in Nahuatl, or I want to have this in Thai language, whatever, then please reach out and we can look on this. But just to complete, Portuguese is already also a language offered, and then Ukrainian and Russian. And Russian because they're also independent and exile media now that are to try to cover the ongoing conflict. And so we decided, we should be fair to them as well, and to offer possibilities to provide independent information in both languages.
Right. So it sounds like when you're looking for contributors, translators as well, folks who can translate the interface into a number of languages would be useful from an open source perspective. Yeah. Excellent.
Yes,
okay. Mo, go ahead.
No, that's the point exactly, to translate,
okay.
And sometimes also to localize. I think also persons who would be interested to say, okay, I would engage in UX testing or to give feedback from a different user perspective. That's also interesting. So yeah, we're happy to receive any kind of suggestions or ideas.
Excellent. Great. Well, I'd love to keep this conversation going, but we are running out of time for today, and we've just answered all our questions. So first, I want to say thank you both. I want to just express my sincere thanks for making the time to speak with us today. It's been a real pleasure. And to everyone watching live, let me also say, thanks for tuning in and for spending this time with us. We know that hours are precious, but we appreciate you being here and listening to Colmena's story, because we think it's a really fascinating and compelling one. If you're interested in connecting with our presenters and with the Colmena project more generally, you can use the contact information on the screen here. So, our speakers have graciously made themselves available. I do want to just note you have some handles there at Nils Brock and at Nilsson Roca. Those are GitLab handles. Are they Twitter handles, or what platform are those?
I think there's it could be both. I don't know. Nilsson, let's try them out. I think
just search Nils Brock everywhere and they'll find you.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. But, please don't hesitate to reach out, and don't forget too that we can have a conversation with our speakers in the GitLab forums as well. And if you're interested in learning how GitLab might benefit your open source project and your community, especially if you are interested in some of the same things that the Colmena project is interested in, you can visit about.gitlab.com to learn more about GitLab, the platform. And specifically, if you're interested in how GitLab can help open source projects, you can visit about.gitlab.com/solutions/open-source. And that's all from us for today. Once again, I'm Brian Berenshausen, wishing you peace, love, and open source. Thanks, everyone, and have a great day.